Hello. I'm going to wait just a minute in case anybody else joins us, and then I'll start telling you a story. And I'll show you around my house a little bit today, too. I'm Nancy Reed. Hello. And I'm going to be doing some drawing while I do my storytelling today. So if you want to get some crayons or markers or paper or something like that, and do some drawing and coloring with me, that would be great. I think it's just about time to start, so I'm going to show you what it looks like in the room where I am. This is actually an extra, this is an extra bedroom of mine, but it's also where I play with crayons and markers and paint and just have fun. And I've been doing some coloring already, getting ready for today. So I'm going to sit down and see if I can get my camera so you can watch me do that. Guess I'll have to be careful where I draw so that you can see what I'm doing. The camera's pretty close. So today's story is about a very smart young woman who lived a long time ago. She was Muslim. She lived in China, and her name was Sailimi. She was very poor, and she was too poor to be able to go to school. But that didn't mean she was pretty. That didn't mean that she wasn't smart, because she watched everything around her all the time. She was always paying attention to whether her neighbors needed to have any help. If there was an old woman who was struggling and needed more food, Sailimi would go over there, and she would know just the right time to show up and give the woman some help doing the cooking. If some children were playing and one of them skinned their knee, even if it wasn't Sailimi's children, she would be there to help them feel better, let them cry. She was very smart. She lived with her family, and one of the people she lived with was her father-in-law named Ali. And I think this is Ali in this picture. He was a carpenter, and he was a good carpenter and built things in their little town. But one day, the emperor of China, who lived nearby in his palace, needed some work done on the palace and called all the carpenters from all the small towns to come in and help. Ali was excited, but he was nervous too, and he wanted to do a really good job. So he worked day and night. He worked really hard to help all the carpenters do the work in the palace. But one day, at the end of a long day, he was so tired, his hands were shaking, and he was almost falling asleep, and he accidentally bumped into a vase, a fancy vase, a very expensive vase that the emperor loved, and it broke. Lots of pieces, made a big noise. Well, the emperor wasn't happy about that, and he came marching up to Ali, and he said, he pulled out his sword, and he held his sword over Ali's head, and he said, "You broke my vase, you will pay." And Ali said, "No, no, please, please, I will pay. I will do everything I can to pay you back for your vase." "Ha," said the emperor, "you couldn't pay for this vase in a million years. It's so expensive." "Please," Ali said, "please, don't kill me." Well, the emperor said, and I don't know if he was being kind or if he was just trying to be mean, but he said, Ali, you will come back to the palace in 1 week, and you have to bring me 4 things. If you bring these 4 things to me in 1 week, then you will go free. Go home. I don't want to see you till then. In fact, I will come to your house. I will see if you have done it, and if not, I'm sorry for you. Ali picked up his tools. He walked home. He was so sad. He got home and he didn't know what to do. So he didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anybody. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, he became quieter and sadder and more scared. And finally, Sailimi said to her father, please tell me what's wrong. I've been watching you. I know there's something wrong. Ali said, tomorrow the emperor is going to come here. And he told me I had to give him 4 things because I broke his face. And if I didn't give him those 4 things, it would be bad for me. I don't know how to do it. Sailimi said, well, tell me, what do you need? Let me help. So Ali told her, he said, these are the 4 things that I need. I didn't tell you either, did I? I didn't tell you, but I'll tell you now. The emperor said that I needed something blacker than the bottom of a pot. I'm going to see if I can draw a pot that might have been the kind of pot that they cooked with back then in China. It would have been clay. So it would be clay color. You can do a pot too if you want. This might not look like some of your pots, but I think it would have been clay. And it would have been very big, so it could make a whole lot of food for the family. And they would cook it on a fire. So maybe this is what the firewood looks like. They would cook it on a fire. And here's kind of a fire. It looks like fire flames. And as they cooked it, of course, on the fire for many days, for many weeks, for many years, the same pot maybe, the pot would get very black on the bottom from all the fire and the coal, very black. And Ali said, I have to find something that's blacker than the bottom of a pot. Oh, okay, said Sailimi, what else? Well, then he said that I had to find something that was clearer than a mirror. That was clearer than a mirror. How can we draw a mirror? I'm going to cheat a little drawing here and make a mirror. I like to play with scissors too. A little hard to do this and show you at the same time, but I'm going to cut a square hole here. Sort of going to be my mirror with a nice frame around it. Maybe a mirror in a bathroom. Of course, they didn't have bathrooms back in the time of Ali and Sailimi. But this could be a mirror because you see, you can see right through it, right? It's almost like it's nothing right there. All right, so something then that's blacker than the bottom of a pot, clearer than a mirror. What else? Something that is stronger than iron. One thing I can think of that's iron is a nail. And you know a nail is hard. And a nail is pretty easy to draw. And it's pointy on the bottom, but it's hard, right? And finally, something that is vaster, wider, bigger than, from my right vantage here, than the ocean. Something's vaster than the ocean. Wow, that's got to be big. Draw the ocean. Maybe you just draw it as a big circle. I always think of the ocean as having waves. Lots of waves. All right, Sailimi said. Don't worry, Father. I am going to be there with you tomorrow to meet the emperor. And I know the answers to all of those riddles. I can do that. So the next morning, here comes the emperor marching in with his soldiers. And poor Ali, I felt so bad. I can imagine how bad he felt and how scared. And Sailimi was scared too, but she walked out with him, holding his hand, and they bowed down in front of the emperor. And the emperor put his hand on his sword and he said, all right, Ali, you have to tell me if you have found these 4 things. Sailimi spoke up and she said, sir, I can tell you, I have found them. Well, the emperor was surprised. Here is a very young girl. She can't be very smart. She's never been to school. Well, tell me what things you wanted from my father, said Sailimi, and I will give them to you. The emperor said, all right, something blacker than the bottom of a pot. Sailimi said, the heart of someone who is mean and cruel and selfish is blacker than the bottom of a pot. Well, thought the emperor, well, that's not exactly wrong. And he felt his heart was feeling a little bit selfish and a little bit mean, and he didn't want to have a black heart. So he went on and he said, all right, then, something that's clearer than a mirror. Well said, Sailimi. Being smart, learning things, makes life clearer than a mirror. The more I learn, the clearer things are every day. Knowledge is clearer than a mirror. Said the emperor. This is a smart young woman. All right, okay. All right, well, what is stronger than iron? Sailimi said, love is stronger than iron. Wow, thought the emperor. Love has certainly made this girl be very strong to stand up to me. All right, finally then, what is vaster than the ocean? Giving your love, sharing it, kindness is vaster than the ocean. And the emperor could see how much difference it made to Ali, to Sailimi, to her whole village, that there was kindness in the village, and he couldn't tell her she was wrong, so he and his soldiers marched away. A little bit different story, isn't it? The things the king asked for, the emperor asked for, were things you could see. What Sailimi gave him were not things you could see, but they're things that are very important. She didn't have any trouble telling him the importance of love and showing it to him. And that was enough for this wise emperor too. Hope she showed you some too. thanks very much for joining. I hope you will do that again, and maybe we'll draw again. It was fun drawing with you, and see you next week.